Hello everyone and welcome to class. In today's cybersecurity analysis course, we'll be looking at operating system. Generally, we are in the session where we talk about Linux, but before we can understand Linux, we need to understand what is an operating system in the first place. Many of us are used to gadgets like basic computers, tablets, smartphones, and all of those other gadgets, even Apple phones, smartwatches, and all of that. One thing is peculiar to all of them: operating systems. They have an operating system that helps them to function properly and smoothly. You probably are more familiar with Windows, and those that use Apple are familiar with a Mac. Then we have smartphones use Android, and Apple phones use iOS. So these are things we are a little bit familiar with. At least once you are trying to download, you say this is an Android phone. We call it Android phone. We call this on iOS phones. Even when you want to put on the Play Store, you can see that it's Android. One is Android, then the other one is iOS. So, but what is really an operating system and how does it function? So let me define it this way. Operating system is the interface between the computer hardware and the user. What's the hardware? Hardware is things you can touch physically, like your keyboard, your mouse, basic things you can touch, your keypad. So the interface between this hardware and the user is what the operating system is all about. So it's responsible for making the computer run smoothly and efficiently as possible. And why do we say so? Because in the very early years of the computer, in the 1950s and all of that, computer system was very slow, and the reason for that is because there was no operating system. So it means that every task completed by a program needs to end before another task will continue. So when the program is running, people will have to wait for the program to finish. Once the program finishes, they will reset the program, the computer, and start another program again. So imagine that you want to send an email, you have to wait, let the email finish loading, then you now reset it before you can now set a WhatsApp message or send. Many of us in this age are not even used to that, because you probably can open like 7 tabs of the same thing at the same time. Different things. You're watching YouTube, you're watching WhatsApp, you're all manner of things. So we don't know that all of these things happen because of operating system. So operating system was a game changer. The common operating system that we have, basically we have the Windows, we have the Mac operating system, we have the Linux, we have Chrome OS, we have Android, and we have iOS. So Windows and Mac were kind of the earliest forms of operating system. So Windows is closed source. Closed source means that the codes are not available for the public, only to the developers, while Mac is partially open source. Then we have Linux. Linux is basically used by cybersecurity experts and generally in the technical world. Linux is open source, so a lot of developers are on it, and you can use the code to create so many things. Then Chrome OS is also open source. Then we have Android and iOS that came up earliest. We have 2008 Android came out, and iOS came out in 2007. So Android is open source, whereas iOS is partially open source. That's basically what the OS is, operating system. So when we say OS now, we are shortening it for operating system. Operating system is very important. It does a whole lot of work. It helps programs to run efficiently. It tells the hardware which program should load and which one should not load, and it allocates resources to the hardware and so much more like that. Let's quickly look at how the operating system works. When you look at an operating system, you generally may not know how it works, because you're just on a laptop and you just click different commands, you send information, you open applications and all of that, and you see that they respond. So you don't even know what's going on, how the work is. Generally, it's not important to know, but for a cybersecurity analyst, you should know how the operating system works so that you can be able to know how to track down a threat, how to track down a vulnerability or whatever it is. For example, once you turn on your laptop, you press the power button. All you are interacting with is the hardware. Then the computer is booting. Once the computer is booting, something has happened. The BIOS has activated the bootloader. So you observe that there will be a kind of loading, maybe operating Windows will load until the program will come up. So that bootloader will, get the system prepared to come on. So just like we probably did in primary school, booting, code booting and one booting. So booting is just simply turning on your laptop, press it on, it will activate the bootloader, then it will run. But for a cybersecurity analyst, this process should be understood by you because vulnerabilities, your antivirus might not even be able to scan the booting process. Remember, it scans the document inside your file, inside your computer. So since it might not be able to scan the boot process, viruses can stay there. Threat actors can be able to exploit the process of turning on your system and keep viruses at the stage of bootloading. So it's very important to understand how the process works so that as a cybersecurity analyst, you are able to look at where the problem is coming from. Next thing to now understand is the operating system does a whole lot of work, hidden work that you don't know. Take a very good example of an application. You decide to use a calculator on your laptop and you're able to press 5 times 9. You use the hardware, physical hardware through the keyboard to press 5 times 9. What happens is that information is sent to the operating system. The operating system now understands the message and sends the information to the right place where the solution will come from. So the operating system will send information to the CPU, central processing unit, which is another hardware. That will process it and return the answer back to the operating system. Operating system now return it back to the application for you to see. Same thing with every other application. You type on your laptop, the operating system you open an application, operating system will understand the request first. That's the first thing it does. Once you understand the request, it's able to send it to the right place for response, then returns the response back to the application and down back to the user. So that's how the operating system works. The operating system works like it's the middleman really, and it helps to interpret the message between the user and the hardware. That's why we said it's more like an interface between the user and the hardware. Very important. Another thing the operating system does is what they call the resource allocation. So it helps to manage resources on the system. Operating system is responsible for ensuring that each program is allocating and deallocating resources. What do we mean by that? Every program and application wants to get a part of resources. Operating system is one that determines how much of resources. Just think about someone that is a cashier, not a cashier now, someone who is in the finance department. Let's say you are given a particular amount of money to share for people. Now you are going to determine who needs much money, who needs more money based on their request. So everybody is requesting, I need money. Then you are not going to determine, okay, what do you want to do? Someone say I want to buy biscuit. Okay, this one say I want to buy rice. So you have to determine the kind of request they're needing and to know how much of resources to allocate to all of them. So operating system does the job of allocating resources to whosoever needs resources most, and they're allocating resources just like that from time to time. Now, all of this operation is going to be seen on the task manager. The task manager lists all of the things to be processed along with the memory and the CPU. The operating system is very important because it helps you to understand how the resources have been allocated to the task manager. And task manager is very, very crucial because you can really see as an analyst, if for example you observe that one application is, there's so much allocation of resources to a particular place, that might be, a malware or stuff that is, eating up so much resources. So it's very easy to get when the system is not functioning properly. Sometimes you can be able to see through the task manager, or just check to know what resources is being allocated there and why is it eating up so much of the resources on so much of the memory. These are things that a cybersecurity analyst should be able to understand. That's the little we will take today for operating system. Understand something very clearly. Operating system is the interface between the computer hardware and the user. As simple as that. You are the user, you're going to interact with the hardware. You press on the keyboard, you use the mouse, whatever hardware you use to send information. The OS will interpret the information and send it to the right resource, or the right place rather, in the hardware. Give the response, return it back to the application, and send it back to you, the user. So that process is always continuous, and the operating system ensures that so many applications can run simultaneously. Because that operating system, once a task has been sent and a program is running, that program has to end. Then we have to reset the program again, the laptop again, for another program to start. But with operating system, so many programs can be running simultaneously, and the operating system will now allocate resources to each of the applications. It's going to allocate resources to their memory. Okay, this is what you should take, this is what you should take to run your program. Everybody wants allocation of resources. So to run simultaneously, operating system will make sure it gives each person its own allocation of resource, and thereby making programs to run at the same time. It's very important and very crucial. So I know you've learned a little bit about the different operating systems, and the focus of a cybersecurity analyst is on the Linux operating system. Why? Because it is more used in the security world. So we're going to learn more about that, and have a wonderful day.